Let's now explore some elements of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's presidency through this monument. Let's see where it leads us. Firstly, he's the president during the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, we saw a huge level of unemployment in the United States. Over 20% of the United States working population were unemployed. That equated to about 15 million people, a huge number at the time. There was a period of internal migration as people shifted from one area that was struggling, such as the dust bowls of the Midwest, to areas they thought where they might find a livelihood. As this occurred, what became known as Hoovervilles, we now consider huge shanty towns of the unemployed were created in places like New York Central Park. Red lines formed. All of this resulted from the Wall Street crash of October 29th, Black Tuesday 1929. The Great Depression was nothing to do with depression as a mental health illness, as I've heard students say off and on in the past. It was a huge economic recession, a receding, a contraction in the economy. Roosevelt plays a major part in alleviating the suffering during that time. Part of it was through the speeches he made. He set the tone. In his inaugural speech of 1933, he announced the only thing Americans had to fear was fear itself. He had won the 1932 presidential elections as the Democratic candidate for president from New York State. On March 4th, 1933, he set the tone. Making this famous "the only thing we have to fear is fear itself" speech, he set himself a target of bringing about a massive New Deal, a new change, a new contract, if you like, with the United States people. In 100 days, he wanted to steer America back on course, and he wanted to be judged upon his first 100 days in office. He brought together what he referred to as the Brains Trust. The Brains Trust, the brightest minds of his generation that he could find in the United States to guide America out of this internal crisis. And they developed a series of laws, become known as the alphabet laws, because many of them had acronyms, and they created a huge number of government agencies called the alphabet agencies. This New Deal, and there were actually two of them, was his pledge to the United States people. It was a pledge to stimulate the economy through massive government programs and massive government spending. You can still see this across the United States today. I noticed in the city of Philadelphia, at Union Station in Philadelphia, this huge monumental railway station. This is the entrance, the ticket office of the railway station in Philadelphia. The Hoover Dam, which was originally called the Boulder River Dam in Colorado. This huge monumental piece of architecture damming the Colorado River. All across the United States were these huge number of projects, partly captured in this graphic artwork, but more captured in this map being created, and it's clickable and so on, run by Berkeley University. Every one of those dots represents a program within the New Deal. These massive events, these massive programs, activities to stimulate the economy, creating jobs across the United States. And we'll look at that in more detail further into the course. In his monument, we can see testimony to a number of those. One of the alphabet agencies is the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC. Another was the Tennessee Valley Authority. These alphabet agencies become a signature part of his presidency. But let's not forget that Roosevelt was also the great democratic leader at the time in which it was an era of dictators. Stalin, General Tojo in Japan, Benito Mussolini in Italy, and of course Adolf Hitler in Germany. So memorialized in the FDR monument is his desire to have freedom of speech, freedom of worship, and freedom from want and freedom from fear. He was a great innovator in the way he used communication direct to the American people. And at the time I'm making this video, many people are also seeing the innovation of a president speaking directly to his supporters and everybody else via Twitter, President Trump. The great innovation of Roosevelt were the fireside chats. He used radio to talk directly to the American people about his New Deal. This promise he made during his campaigns, and you've got his New Deal cane here that is in the Museum of American History. And in his monument, he's talking directly to the poor, the average, the common person of the United States during their Great Depression. Some people loved and hated Roosevelt. Just as we're seeing this polarization in American politics today, there were some who very much disliked Roosevelt's changes to the American system. Roosevelt had been elected for 4 terms. He was president during the vast majority of America's World War II experience, and he died in office in April 1945. He doesn't see the end of World War II. The president who brings around about the end of World War II is President Harry S. Truman, who was Roosevelt's vice president, or VP. When we think about President Roosevelt, I think it's very hard to separate him from his sense of social justice. His speeches carried great power at a time of an internal emergency, the Great Depression, which lasted from 1929 until about 1939. Perhaps it was the onset of World War II that finally stimulates the American economy. The monument looks at World War II. You see in the monuments this great carved blocks of stone that are often covered with water and waterfalls stating, "I hate," and on the blocks down here, "war." He has seen war and he hates war. It was one of the key ideas that comes through the World War II monument, part of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's memorial. So he's got an internal crisis, the Great Depression, and an external crisis that he deals with, World War II, and we need to explore both of these in this unit. Let's now consider what Roosevelt, the man himself, wanted as a memorial. He said in September 1941, before America entered the war, this famous quote, "If any memorial is erected to me, I know exactly what it should be. I should like it to consist of a block about the size of this," putting his hand on his desk, "and placed in the centre of a green plot in front of the archives building. I don't care what it's made of, whether it's limestone or granite or whatnot. But I want it plain, without any ornamentation, with a simple carving in memory of." So I suspect he wouldn't have actually liked this monument that I'm so fond of. That is the archives building today on the mall, which is part of the reason I wanted to show you the maps. And there it is, on the 20th anniversary of his death, the monument that he suggested he wanted was placed there for him. And the quote that he gave is there. When I was there, I didn't even notice that monument. There was so much activity going on, so much else going on around there. It was so humble. In that area, I was taking photographs of squirrels, and I have a funny feeling that's probably the way FDR might have liked it. I don't think he really wanted a big deal. His monument kind of captures the spirit of his humility as well.